Hi guys, my name is Mariah. I wanted to take the time and make a video to talk about tokophobia and what it is. Please know this video discusses the topic of pregnancy and childbirth and therefore may be triggering to some. So if you don't want to hear about that and its related subject matter, I would click out. The reason I wanted to make this video is because, can you guys, oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you very much for making an appearance. Is because I myself am tokophobic. And I believe with anything in life, whether it be a cause, a disease, or a mental illness, etc., the more knowledge and awareness that there is about that thing out in the world, the less alone those dealing with it feel, and better means for support are garnered. Everything I say in this video is the best to my knowledge, but I don't complain to be an expert or anything on it. I just have tokophobia myself, and over the years I have learned a lot about it. And I might not always communicate it in a way that someone else with tokophobia would. So let's get the ball rolling on this. What exactly is tokophobia? Tokophobia is a very real phobia surrounding pregnancy and childbirth, or one or the other. Now let me be clear, it is entirely normal and common for pregnant people or those trying to conceive to experience fear and doubt and anxiety about being pregnant or giving birth. In fact, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who wouldn't be a little anxious about those things. However, tokophobia fear and anxiety goes way beyond the typical fear and anxiety that the average person might feel. Tokophobic people have a pathological and intense fear of pregnancy and or childbirth. Pathological along the lines of compulsive, obsessive, and difficult to manage or try to control. A disorder worth recognition and compassion and treatment if desired. There are two classifications of tokophobia. One can be classified as having primary or secondary tokophobia. Primary tokophobia is when that person has no previous experience being pregnant or giving birth. Regardless, they have the overwhelming fear present anyway. Secondary tokophobia is when someone has developed this fear after a previous experience being pregnant and giving birth, often due to traumatic experiences during that pregnancy or traumatic birth experience. Okay, so now we've covered generally what tokophobia is, and I want to talk about some of its specific symptoms. Some psychological and physiological symptoms associated with tokophobia can include, but are not limited to, hyperventilating, recurrent nightmares, sweating and shaking, avoidance of becoming pregnant, avoiding things associated with or that remind you of pregnancy, including even pregnant people themselves, depression, panic and anxiety attacks, crying triggered by sight or sounds, or words pertaining to pregnancy and childbirth, nausea and vomiting, thoughts of death or dying or of harming oneself, avoidance of some or any sexual activity to avoid the chance of getting pregnant, constantly worrying that you might be pregnant even if there's little chance that you are, and so on. Everyone experiences it in their own way. Along that same grain of thought, the onset of tokophobia can also be different for everyone. For people who have primary tokophobia, the dread or fear surrounding pregnancy or childbirth may begin in adolescence or early adulthood. But I've heard so many people say they've just always had this feeling and just always have felt this way, as long as they can remember, in some form or another. I didn't know I had these feelings and fear myself until I was trying to conceive. I found myself feeling very out of control of my body and extremely anxious and fearful. But I had always wanted to be a mom, and I always saw pregnancy as this beautiful, life-affirming thing that I wanted to take part in. So these feelings were very shocking and hard for me to come to terms with when I started feeling them. It wasn't until later on that I did an online search for the terms fear of pregnancy and childbirth that I knew about the term tokophobia and knew that it implied to me the more I learned about it. That's also when I found out I wasn't the only one who felt this way. For myself, I have always wanted to be a mom, and so for the past few years that I've known I have this to deal with, I've done a lot of self-work and therapy trying to work through it so that I may have a baby with my husband, because that's what I want. However, there are so many people with tokophobia who are beyond content staying child-free by choice or becoming a parent in a different means, such as surrogacy or adoption. All of these options are valid, and that is extremely important to note. Tokophobic people are not broken because they have tokophobia, and they do not have to fix themselves in order to become pregnant and fulfill some idea of what a normal person is, or a normal way to start a family. You are valid if you never want kids by any means, You are valid if you want to become a parent by adopting or surrogacy, and you're valid if you want to work through your tokophobia to have a baby yourself. What's important is that someone who is tokophobic is given the support they need and they want. Which leads me to, what support is there available to someone with tokophobia? For some people, this can take such a toll on their lives and be really detrimental to their mental health. I simply cannot say this enough. Like anything else, this all lies on a spectrum. Everyone is affected in their own way. For those whose day-to-day life is really negatively impacted by their tokophobia, whether it be from obsessive compulsions and thoughts, or panic attacks, or completely avoiding sex, seeing a therapist might help them learn tools to cope with their tokophobia and lessen some of its effects on their life. Seeing a therapist who has knowledge on phobias specifically can be most helpful, but from my own experience, it can be really difficult to find someone who knows specifically what tokophobia is, because I've found it's just not widely known about or talked about, which is why I wanted to make this video to spread awareness. But that doesn't mean going to a regular therapist who isn't specialized in phobias or tokophobia wouldn't still be beneficial. There are always methods you can learn to deal with the symptoms and effects tokophobia has on your life. There are tools to help minimize the effects of anxiety, obsessive thoughts, fearful thinking, depression, all of which can be things experienced because of your tokophobia. While there aren't any specific medications I know about that are linked to being helpful for tokophobia, there's still antidepressants and anxiety medications that can help the symptoms you're feeling in reaction to having tokophobia. So it's definitely worth talking to a psychiatrist and getting their input about whether they think there are any medications that could work with you and what you're dealing with, if that's a path you're wanting to explore. Besides therapy or mental health medication, you could also try looking for a support group, either online or maybe you could find a local one. Don't know any of those though. I'm in a couple of online support groups myself, and I found them so helpful as I've been on this fun journey. It helps not feeling so alone in this. Regardless of the options available to us, sometimes when a tokophobic person becomes pregnant, they may experience such levels of panic, fear, anxiety, or loss of control over their body and their lives that is too detrimental on their mental health to continue the pregnancy. And that is completely valid too, because sometimes they feel so overwhelmed and even suicidal, go away, that they would actually rather die than be pregnant or have to give birth. That's how serious and how much of an impact tokophobia can put on your life if you have it really severe. And that can be very scary for them to be experiencing that. I will always stand with whatever choice they feel is best for them. And it is my hope that they have access to whatever means of support that they need and want to make the choice best for them in their situation. Sometimes they can work through it to sustain the pregnancy with therapy and support from others, and sometimes that is just too daunting. Both are valid. I want to reiterate that there are varying levels and intensity of tokophobia. That's so important to remember. Tokophobia can stem from a lot of different places. Sometimes trauma, sometimes there's no identifiable cause, and it can be helpful and important to take the time, perhaps with a therapist, doula, or close friend, to figure out exactly where you stand with your fear, whether you want kids or not. For example, a friend of mine who has tokophobia shared this with me. She said that when she first started wanting a family in her future, she would lie awake at night and think that she would rather die than give birth. She said her thoughts were too clouded with fear, something I can personally relate heavily to. But when she broke it down piece by piece, she realized she wasn't scared of the entire aspect of giving birth. She was only scared of certain parts of it. For example, needles and episiotomies are two of her fears related to birth. Everything else, she said, is still unpleasant but bearable. 6 months ago, the whole thing scared her. Now just certain parts do. For some people, the birth aspect is so scary that they want to have an elective C-section to have the birth be more controlled and easy to know what to expect. I am one of those people if I do become pregnant. However, some tokophobic people's biggest fear is having a C-section. See what I mean when I say it's all an expression and everyone who has tokophobia experiences it in their own way? There's this book called Choosing Cesarean, A Natural Birth Plan, in which they offer a compelling case for going down the elective C-section route. They offer a compelling case for surgical delivery as a legitimate birth choice for informed birthing persons. In my eyes, what matters most is that every birthing person, tokophobic or not, has the knowledge and support to make their own informed decisions, informed choices that work best for them. Something else I'd like to mention that I was reminded by someone in my support group is that often there are other phobias linked to tokophobia, such as the fear of needles, trypanophobia, being nauseous and throwing up, emetophobia, general medical procedures, and many more. Toko can intersect with a lot of other conditions. It's so important to support tokophobic people in whatever choice they make, not making them feel bad or try to change their minds about how they choose to have kids or if they choose to have kids at all. My own Toko journey, as I like to call it, has certainly been a roller coaster of ups and downs. I'm not wanting to focus on my own journey in this video. I mainly wanted this video to be a general overview and informative about tokophobia, to spread awareness and let anyone who comes across this who may feel similar know that they're not alone in dealing with this. If you are someone who is suffering greatly due to tokophobia and is feeling in danger of your life or just really overwhelmed, please know that you are not alone, and I will be putting some helpful resources in the description of this video down below. I hope this has been informative and easy to understand. I am not used to doing this. I wrote everything down so I could know what to say, but this isn't natural for me, so I apologize if it seemed choppy or awkward, but I'm doing my best. I'm not the best with my words, but I've wanted to make this video for such a long time, as this is something very personal to me and very near and dear to my heart. If you'd like to keep up with me and my Toko journey, feel free to follow me on Instagram, as I have a Toko journey highlight that I keep up with on my Instagram. This is my username. Or subscribe to this channel, as I'm hoping to become more active on here and make more videos in the future. Please know that I am manifesting love to anyone who is watching this. Please know that you are stronger and more powerful and capable than you could ever imagine. Bye.